Hey, welcome everybody to the Max Show. That is Massive Abundance Exposed, where we expose the badass secrets of very cool and amazing entrepreneurs and real estate agents around the world. And today we have got none other than Matt Beall. Matt Beall is in the house with a Hawaii Life. Matt has started, along with two other partners, this amazing, one of the top real estate brokerage firms in Hawaii, in the state of Hawaii. And me, Chris Stafford, gets the honor of interviewing Matt. I'm really looking forward to hearing what he has to say about himself. He has a television show on HGTV. He's filming a second season. It's called Hawaii Life. He's been nominated by Inman News as the top 100, one of the top 100 real estate influencers in real estate. I mean, the guy just has accolades up the yin yang. You're not going to believe it. So I'm really looking forward to meeting Matt Beall. Before we do, make sure that you get yourself to massiveabundance.co, sign in, get yourself some free goodies, and without further ado, let's get on the show. Okay, this is the Max Show, and you're not going to believe it, everybody. We have Matt Beall from Hawaii in the house. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing great, Chris. Aloha. Thanks for having me.
I am so happy that you're here, man. We are honored to have you. I've got all kinds of questions that I want to get into about your company and your life and all this good stuff. But first, give us a little background about where you're from and how you got started.
Well, let's see. I moved to Hawaii in 1994. I was living in Montana at the time, and I started real estate in 98 and had a pretty successful sales career. And then in 2008, which is sort of an ironic time to start a real estate company, we started Hawaii Life, and it's been a wild ride to a life of its own for sure.
That is great.
And it's been great fun.
That is great. And for those of you that don't know Hawaii Life, it's one of the top real estate brokerage firms in Hawaii. And the accolades that you have surrounding your name is just amazing, Matt. I mean, some of these things, Inman top 100 influential realtors or real estate people. You have your own television show called Hawaii Life on HGTV. Very impressive. We got an actual celebrity in the house. You've received multiple awards for having like the best website, and the traffic that you have coming to your website, as I understand, is like #1 in Hawaii, if not everywhere else. How do you, I mean, since 2008, that's only been, what is that, 5 years? You've got over almost 150 employees from what I understand, and you're covering the whole state of Hawaii. What do you attribute the success and growth to?
Well, it's certainly not one thing, that's for sure. Teamwork is a big part of it. You know, I have two partners who are, equally responsible for everything we've done. We have a really great leadership team, a really great core group that manages the business on each island, and their collaboration and their success has also created more of a movement. And I think just part of starting a company in 2008 really made us nimble. It made us it forced us to be willing to kind of go with the current circumstances and not have to fit into a certain mold or a certain box, and the result of that has been a lot of success. I know it's a little bit cryptic, but that's it in a nutshell. Is really just going with the flow.
Right. Well, you mentioned being nimble, and you are a relatively new company, but you've just got all this success. Is there one particular thing, one or two things that you can put your finger on that makes you a little more unique than other companies, or you attribute to your success?
I think what started it a lot of, so Hawaii Life was a very successful website before we sort of converted it into a brick and mortar real estate brokerage. So that's part of it, because the exposure that we were able to bring and then sort of constantly work on converting to the listings that were hired to sell and to the brokers and agents that joined our firm is a very key component of the whole thing. So when you sort of widen the mouth of that funnel, when you just get more eyeballs looking at your product, that becomes a very sort of contagious event, and it doesn't take long, especially in a market like we've been through, in the post-recession market, where the successful brokers and agents and even sellers are more available for an alternative, and when they are, they look out very quickly and see what works, and then they're likely to gravitate towards that. So I think that's sort of part of it. And of course, we're helped by a market that was struggling, and a lot of people were looking for alternatives. And we were able to really provide a lot of exposure, and then also sort of win based on merit. We were able to produce not just a pretty website, but one that actually generates business.
Right. So, it is an amazing website, Matt. I have to tell, and tell all, so Matt, we have a lot of viewers that are struggling or starting entrepreneurs, and also many real estate brokers, real estate agents that really want to ramp up their business. So you got to check out HawaiiLife.com. It is an awesome site. That is HawaiiLife.com. I just went on there this afternoon and decided that I really want to purchase that $18 million house on Anini Road. It looks like one badass house, I have to tell you. But no, I'm sure you have some amazing listings on this site, so it's a beautiful site. But again, I've got all these viewers that are, entrepreneurs that are really wanting to make their business really happen, real estate agents that really want to make this business happen. What do you personally bring to the table with regard to your business? Like, what kind of characteristics, what kind of entrepreneur do you? I mean, you sound to me like you're very tenacious, obviously very bright. What other characteristics do you feel that you bring to the table?
I'm not sure about the tenacity or the brightness part. I mean, I think as a sort of a behavior style, I'm probably the classic kind of, I'm certainly not willing to. Better said, I'm willing to try and fail. And I don't want to get into like failure glorification, because I think that's sort of also a kind of a misnomer. But I'm quick to make the decisions, and I don't need to have the kind of 50,000 foot overview or all of the data or that kind of stuff. I do sort of make a decision quickly about what I think will work and what I think looks right, and then I'm willing to kind of gas that fire, and I'm also willing to be wrong. So that's sort of kind of more of a personality trait. I think that leadership component and the collaboration that we've been able to develop actually helps to create the checks and balances that I need as a business leader. That someone else might come along and say, hey, I know we all like this idea, but let's be a little more pragmatic, or let's consider X, Y, and Z. So collaboration is a big part of it, and being able to bring in people who have a different set of skills and maybe even just a different personality or behavior style. So that, and sometimes sparks fly, and sometimes those things mesh really well, and everyone's able to perform. So for me personally, I'd say I'm certainly the more type A, kind of aggressive, competitive type, and even though I think culturally I've sort of imbued things in the firm that are decidedly different than what I'll call traditional models in real estate, but you'll still get the flavor of that sort of hungry competitive drive even in the firm.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense, and I like what you said about the glorification of failure, because a lot of people online, podcasts, television, are all talking about failure and go out there and fail and blah blah blah. But I think it's important, because you don't want that to stop you, and that's really good, because obviously you've failed your way into greatness, and that's pretty apparent with your success.
Yeah, I mean, my point is, I also don't think that we should create such a safety net around it, like it's an expectation. The expectation should be that you succeed, that you win, and that you're expressed in whatever your endeavor is. And I think there's such a sort of a meme online and all sorts of circles about failure that it can kind of show up as dangerous, like almost as if people try until they fail, and that doesn't really make sense. I mean, what makes sense is succeeding and acknowledging that success and being expressed in it. And of course, it's okay to fail, and it's okay to throw something against the wall and see if it sticks. I mean, I can't tell you how many ideas we've had that we tried and they just didn't work, and we thought, okay, next, and we just moved on. And that ability to not get really pigeonholed, I think, helps, because it's that sort of that nimbleness and that ability to move quickly that allows you to be in the real time, real moment, in the present, and adjust to what the market's doing, what your clientele might want, what your colleagues might want, and create an environment that really works instead of one that's just rigid and I'm going to do this and whether anybody likes it or not.
Right, right. I like that. I like that. Being nimble, that's key, especially when you're starting up and being a new entrepreneur. Now you have Justin and Winston are your two partners, if that's correct.
That's right. Yeah.
And how do you guys, well, first of all, how much real estate do you guys sell in a year, roughly, big picture?
Let's see, 2012, we did 520 million in transaction sides.
Wow.
So that's, for us, I think it was 770 transactions or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's compounded, in complexity by being on 4 different islands. So, there's pros and cons to that. The cons are sort of obvious. You're separated by hundreds of miles of water, and there's logistics and travel expenses of just management and leadership. And the pros are kind of similar because we were separated by all that water, and because you have these geographical boundaries, we're sort of forced to really walk the walk when it comes to being like a tech-enabled brokerage. So, things like using GoToMeeting, or we run an internal chat room, or just different tools that allow for really powerful collaboration. That it ends up kind of creating a movement that doesn't need me or a broker in charge to spark it. It just, once you put that structure in place, individual salespeople will use those tools on their own, and then the beauty of that is that you get everyone collaborating, and you get everyone sharing best practices or different market elements, and it's sort of a win-win situation, and it's happening completely on its own.
That's amazing. And giving them the freedom, to create their own businesses, their own failures, their own wins. Exactly. So Justin and Winston?
Winston, right.
How do you guys break up the responsibilities of the company?
Winston's our creative director, so he's sort of responsible for the look and feel and the brand messaging, and a lot of just the artwork and the logo and the design, and just everything in that realm. Which is, creative director is can be an abstract title, so he's also nimble and willing to roll with those punches. And Justin, his title has changed over the years, but really he's our head web head, which really means that he's responsible for our website. He oversees our programmers. He's responsible for all of our search engine optimization, and anything that really does drive traffic. So that's his main role, and of course he's involved with the back of the house as well. So that's sort of the tech-enabled stuff. What happens for the broker and agent, behind the scenes of the website, our CRM, our phone system, and how those things all talk to each other. But that's really his role. It's distinct from being, kind of IT though, because the focus is really on like inbound marketing, as opposed to being a tech support, or which we try to keep things as really streamlined as possible when it comes to the technologies that we use, so that we're not running in a bunch of different directions.
Got it. And then
the focus.
No, go ahead.
Well, the focus really starts with that exposure. So, like for example, you drive a bunch of traffic to the website, and then what happens? Well, people inquire. Well, then what happens? Well, we respond. How do we respond? And then it's just the tools that we use along the way.
That's great.
That he's involved in. So
that's good. That's good. And so that means that it sounds like the whole business is covered. Does that mean that Matt Beall gets to lay on the beach all day? What's your job?
that would be awesome. No, I'm the principal broker, so I'm sort of I run the front of the house.
Got it.
So I'm responsible for all the transactions, all the agents, all the listings. So in the sort of brick and mortar realm, that's really my task, my job.
Got it.
And granted, I think all three of us, and this goes back to the checks and balances I was mentioning, we sort of, the lines blur, and we collaborate on all of those things, and we don't really have hard and fast you know, I'm the absolute authority. I mean, it's a remarkably balanced structure, and I think that's part of it. Is that, you know, not to romanticize about it too much, but I think because you have a very healthy checks and balances, and you don't have this sort of traditional pyramid. You know, I'm not like the big daddy broker kind of thing. And there's not a whole lot of hierarchy in our firm. It really is a little bit more of an egalitarian kind of, you know, level model. So to that end, I think people respond to it a little differently, and they're able to kind of contribute in a way that they might not be in a different context.
Got it. And then, so Matt, you work really well with these guys, obviously. Are you, how do I want to say this? Do you recommend real estate agents together as sales teams will get into partnerships? Because there's a lot of discussion about that in San Francisco. We always talk, you know, should I take a partner? Should I not? Should I be a lone wolf? What do you think?
That's a great question. I think it really depends on the individual, for one. I mean, I think, you know, we have sales agents who work in teams. Some who are very, very successful in teams. We have some who are completely mavericks and do their own thing. I think because our job, you know, the practice of being a real estate broker isn't really getting any easier, and because it's getting more and more complex and more layered, I think we, unfortunately, as an industry, sort of get duped into believing that we can do everything, and that we can do everything transcends not just the different genres and facets of our own industry, you know, whether it's, you know, short sales, REOs, luxury, all that stuff, but also gets into things like, you know, I can make my own website, and I can do my own blog, and I can handle SEO, and I can code, blah blah, like that stuff. It just is, and I think, you know, because we're largely sort of type A entrepreneur type people, and we're salespeople, and, you know, we're independent contractors, and we are basically our own businesses. We're prone to that line of thinking. You know, we're self-starters. We're prone to think, oh, well, I can just do it. And the reality is, yeah, you can, but should you? Right. You know, so you have to be able to be boundaried around, you know, what really makes the most sense. You know, and what's the best use of your time? And if you really start asking yourselves those questions, especially as a successful practitioner, you'll find pretty quickly that there's a ton of things that you shouldn't be doing and you need help. And whether that looks like, you know, forming a team and really coming up with a division of labor and isolating out, I'm going to have an assistant, or I'm going to have a buyer's agent, whatever it is, or if it looks like, hey, I'm going to go get a coach, or I'm going to go get someone that I'm going to offset this task. You know, and it's not really a team; it's just something that you're delegating. Support system, right? Yeah, it's better to get. I think better to get really flat about that sooner than later, because I don't see it getting any easier. Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's the biggest thing. I'm always telling people to defer and delegate it. Real estate brokers and agents, especially, it's like, you know, you should only be prospecting, meeting with sellers, meeting with buyers, writing contracts, signing listings. Sorry about this. And if you're not doing one of those two things, or excuse me, one of those four things, then, you know, defer it. Get somebody else to do it, you know. That's right. What do you look for in a real estate agent when you're trying to hire? And real fast, I'm curious, do your real estate agents only work in one island, or can they work throughout the whole state? They can. They could work the whole state. They don't. And every now and then we'll have a client who might represent someone on a different island, but we do that on a case-by-case basis. Right. If it's target specific and it's not like, you know, I'm going to list a property on a totally different island and it might take 6 months to sell. We don't do that kind of stuff. But what we do, you know, it's a statewide license, and so on occasion you'll see someone will go do one or two deals somewhere else. Right. So for the most part, they stay on the island where they live. Got it. And what are we looking for? Well, yeah, like you have a real estate agent that comes into your office and they want to work for Matt. And I mean, this is like the best real estate agent you've ever seen, real top notch. I mean, what do they look like in terms of their characteristics, their traits? What really turns you on? There's no, this is Hawaii, right? So we have a lot of characters. So there is no model. I mean, there's no one person that says, hey, I want to. I mean, we're sort of old school in the sense that we're market driven, meaning that we are hyper attentive to the properties that we were hired to sell, and how to get market share. So we are basically a listing brokerage. We want to focus on that market share, and we want to focus on how to get listings. So when we meet brokers and agents who share that mindset, it's really inspiring to us. And I'll add to that. It's sort of a weird thing to say because we do active lead generation so well that we're always going to need kind of hungry, buyers agents, people who are willing and to kind of, sometimes it's internet date and sometimes it's just hit the road and go out and show property. But I think we all know those two things sometimes they're not one and the same person.
Right.
And for us, we sort of gravitate towards how do we get the market share and who are the people that are going to help us do that. And we feel like we have a real product that we can take to sellers that'll help them sell their homes and sell them for more money. But it still needs a human being to one, have the relationship to get in the door, but also really explain the what and the how and the why and all those things.
The belly to belly is absolutely very important. You can have all the other great prospecting and internet stuff, but
that's exactly
the relationship is key. I guess some of your real estate agents, you've grown so quickly. Are they mostly newer agents, or have you been able to attract more experienced agents?
No, they're all really experienced. So we don't. This is changing a little bit because as we get more and more exposure, we have more and more inbound traffic, and then we need more help with that. But when we started, we weren't really set up at all to handle people who were new to the industry. Or frankly, even new to the state. We just didn't have any sort of support structure. We don't have a training program. And even though we were committed to kind of keeping the sort of back end software, the stuff that that we provide for our brokers and agents, really, really simple. It's still, the reality is, I think the problems that we solve for the consumer and for the broker and agent are relatively advanced problems. And unless you've been in the business and you kind of know the practice of real estate, you don't really know what those problems are. And I know that's a little bit cryptic, but we were never set up to really bring in someone off the street and say, okay, here's how the practice of helping people buy and sell real estate works. We just never had that bandwidth. What we did have was how to really gas the fire of someone who had those relationships and was able to kind of get in the door and be in the community, how to really give them tools that would help them get more listings, sell those listings, interact with more people and do it at scale. That's the kind of stuff where we really, really shine. Got it.
I want to switch gears here for a second, Matt, and ask you about you personally with regard to your business or any entrepreneurial venture that you've taken on. Looking back, what has been the biggest challenge you've experienced, and how have you overcome that?
That's a tough one. I think my own belligerence is probably too strong of a word, but my own conviction has probably been kind of my worst enemy. This belief that I'm right, and I know that a lot of. I joke, especially with people that are new to the industries. I always say, a lot of the times there's so much coming out that nothing can go in, and it's just that kind of, you got to listen.
Right.
So there are some decisions I wish I had made sooner, or some things I just gotten over. The last thing I would do is restructure any of my history or make any changes,
right?
Because I know that it all sort of played in for a reason. But there are basic things, like I'm sure every broker and agent goes through this. I didn't learn how to hire right in my own practice. For many, many years, I would hire salespeople to do a sort of back office job or vice versa. Those kinds of things. I just didn't have instruction, and I think even learning to be instructed was something that I really struggled with. And once I kind of reached that threshold, it was like there's just massive amounts of grace and just inflow of information that really profoundly helped my whole life. Not alone, not just my practice, but I just wasn't really available for that, and I was just, I got the right answers and I'm going to do it. And, I wasn't asking anybody else for their opinion.
Right.
Which is one thing I've I've learned.
Well, well, maybe you actually had to sort of walk through that to create this amazing collaborative environment that you're talking about with your organization.
Yeah, I think, and that I think 2010, I hired a professional business coach,
Hmm.
and the very first session we had, she said, Matt, the sooner you really acknowledge and understand that you are not in control of this,
Hmm.
the better off you're going to be. And it took me, it was like, I could feel sort of new neuronal pathways firing. It was like it just sparks coming out of my head.
Uh-huh.
But she's absolutely right, and it's something that kind of you got to let it have a life of its own, and
Right.
not have to micromanage or be the one that is responsible or controls or any of
Yes.
that. And when you do that, it can reward you in whatever,
Absolutely.
a thousandfold.
And sometimes getting that idea, as all of us entrepreneurs are the type A entrepreneurs, sometimes it's a little hard to get that, but when you get it, man, it can pay you in spades. That's great.
Yeah.
For you or your company, what's like the next big vision? What's the next big plan that you see? Other than
Oh,
being a movie star on television.
you'd have to sign a contract before I could. No, I don't know. We've got a bunch of different ideas. I mean, there's some real sort of base level stuff that we're doing in Hawaii. We want to really expand our vacation rental operation.
Hmm.
We have a lot of success in sort of our first market where we started, and we want to grow that. So that's one thing that we're just sort of right now today that we're working on. But even outside of Hawaii, we have sort of ideas about how we might be able to enable the industry with some of the stuff that we've developed, because we've got a pretty brilliant software suite, and some of it is custom, and some of it is sort of a hybrid of how we've combined different off-the-shelf products.
Uh-huh.
But the result of that is pretty brilliant, because it's done so much for us and for the brokers and agents that work with us, and like I say, in terms of being able to make their business scale,
Hmm.
that we really think it would apply to a lot of other markets. Maybe not every market, but a lot of them,
Hmm.
especially ones where there's. Well, I mean, this is sort of a joke, because I was about to say one where there's a lot of internet traffic, but I think what I mean is part of the reason that we gravitated towards the internet so quickly was because there's so many buyers and sellers here that
Hmm.
don't live in the state, and so we wanted to go where they are.
Hmm.
And so any kind of resort market would be an example of that, where
Right.
people are shopping from afar. But the reality is that every market, I think Gary Keller made that joke about, we got to stop calling them internet consumers and just call them consumers,
Right.
because that's really what they are.
Right. That's great. I love it. So, you
Sorry,
have
somebody just
got,
came in.
oh, somebody walked in. I love it. So, last question, and I always love asking this question. This is where you're going to give the most profound answer, Matt, that you've ever given in your life.
Okay, fingers crossed.
You've got all these entrepreneurs that are watching you right now. You've got these real estate agents and brokers that are watching you right now. Give them what's the one piece of advice, the one or two pieces of advice that you would give a brand new entrepreneur, real estate broker, or real estate agent, or someone who's been in the business that really wants to ramp up their business?
Get coaching.
Get coaching.
Yeah, get coaching.
Hmm.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yep.
And the sooner you acknowledge that, the better off you are. Whether it's whether it's personal growth or specific to your business,
Hmm.
Get coaching, and usually specific to your business. You'll provide distinctions for your business and for your team or whatever you're doing that you just don't already have. And when you start putting that stuff in play, I can't begin to define what that's done for me.
Yep.
I mean, radical changes. And of course, I went through all the same conversations I'm sure a lot of people do. I can't afford it, or it's not worth it, or
Hmm.
what do they know? They've never blah blah blah. I mean, all that stuff. But those are just bogus rationalizations.
Right. Right.
When you have a second set of eyes and someone who's trained to do, whether it's efficiency or productivity or behavior style or leadership, any of that stuff. When you get that information, it's just like putting a real like rocket fuel on your pilot light kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I love that answer because, I started off in real estate my first 10 years. I paid a coach $1,000 a month for 10 years to help me,
Wow.
who just I mean, he just did an amazing job for my business. And it's the best money I ever spent.
That's
So
great.
I
Yeah, that's
love
great.
that answer. Well, listen, Matt, I want to say congratulations to you on your HGTV television show. I understand that
Thanks
you're
so
starting
much.
your second season of filming very shortly.
Yep.
So
Yep.
good luck with that. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you taking the time out, man. This has been a complete honor.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, Matt. Thank you. You take care.
All right.
All right.
Aloha.
That's it, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Was Matt amazing? What a charming guy, down to earth, and I'm really glad that he was able to share so many really cool tidbits with us. And I'm really hoping that you enjoyed this interview. Make sure you hit Matt up at hawaiilife.com. His all of his information will be in the show notes, so definitely get in touch with him. Real estate agents, real estate brokers, make sure you send all your referrals in Hawaii to Mr. Matt Beall at hawaiilife.com. Thanks so much for joining us again. Once again, shameless plug, massiveabundance.co. Make sure you get yourself there, sign in, get yourself some free goodies. Again, Chris Stafford here with Massive Abundance, and may massive abundance be yours. Thanks so much.